Shalom, shalom. We're going to discuss what is love and the appeal to mystery for a pagan heart. Because that's what the New Testament is. It's an appeal to mystery, and it's an appeal to love. Let's start in the pagan New Testament. 1 Corinthians 13. And I loved this passage. If I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but do not have love, I have become a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have the gift of prophecy and know all mysteries, you see, they're connected, and all knowledge, and if I have faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. But if I give all of my possessions to feed the poor, like Torah does command you to help the poor, but it doesn't command you to become poor to help the poor. If you do that, then you're also poor and need help. See, and this is why I've also said post leaving the lies of the New Testament to follow Torah alone, follow YAH alone. Paul teaches the same thing as JC. Matthew 19, which is also in Mark 10 and Luke 18, a man comes to him and says, Teacher, what good thing shall I do that I have eternal life? And he said to him, Why are you asking me about what is good? And he's, the earliest God spells also didn't believe he was God in the flesh. There is only one who is good, but if you wish to enter life, keep the commandments. And you notice that Matthew also removed this from Mark. No one is good except God alone. He wasn't calling himself God. Matthew just removed it because the view of him was changing over time. But if you wish to enter life, keep the commandments. Okay, that's Torah. That's great. And then he said to him, Which ones? And Jesus said, You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not borrow false witness, you honor your father and mother, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Where are the first four commandments? Isn't it bizarre that the first four commandments are missing? Who else has a list that sounds just like this? And before we get to that, I want to get to the verse I'm talking about because he says, All these things I kept, and am I still lacking? And JC said, If you wish to be complete, go and sell your possessions and give to the poor. 1 Corinthians 13:3. If I give all my possessions to feed the poor, if I surrender my body to be burned, but do not have love, it profits me nothing. This is why some people, after leaving Paul, they believe Paul is this man he was speaking to. But this is backwards because Matthew was written after 1 Corinthians 13. Love is patient, love is kind, it is not jealous, does not brag, is not puffed up, it does not act unbecomingly, it does not seek its own, is not provoked. Yeah, maybe you should have taken that advice, Mr. Paul. When Cephas came to Antioch, I opposed him to his face because he stood condemned. For prior to coming of a certain men from James, he used to eat with the Gentiles, but when they came, he began to shrink back and separate himself, fearing the party of the circumcision. No, this is a testimony of one man, but if it's true, then yes, Cephas was a hypocrite. However, Torah does demand separation. And if they were truly doing something that was against Torah, then he probably shouldn't have been eating with them. I don't know what they were doing. I don't know what they were eating. This is only Paul's testimony. And we know he's not condemning Paul. I mean, Paul's not condemning Cephas by Torah, but by the party of circumcision. It does not take into account Aaron suffered. 2 Corinthians 11:8. I robbed other churches by taking wages from them to minister to you. Why did he take that into account to them, the same people? Uh, It does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices with truth. Is there anything more unrighteous than the murder of an innocent man and drinking his blood? It bears all things, believes all things. Think about that. You believe everything you're being told. You hope in all things. You endure all things. Love never fails, but if there are gifts of prophecy, they will be done away with. If there are tongues, they will cease. If there are knowledge, it will be done away with. Yeah. Now let's really get into that in Matthew 5. And it just shows you it's the same teaching. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the lowly, the meek, the humble, for they shall inherit the earth. Which is also in the Psalms. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. But, I mean, this alone should tell you there are problems in the New Testament. How can the pure in heart see God without going through JC? And JC himself, no one has seen God. But here he is in Matthew 5:8 saying, the pure in heart shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. But he's the only begotten Son of God, according to John. But this is the bit that really, really you gotta contemplate on. Being a peacemaker. Blessed are those who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness. No, they aren't blessed. If you're persecuted, you're not righteous. If you're afflicted, you're not righteous. This is what Deuteronomy 28 says. Leviticus 27 and Deuteronomy 28 have a list of blessings and curses. And this is interesting because this is what he is reframing. He's reframing blessings and curses. Blessed are you when people insult you and persecute you. I mean, this is exactly opposite of Deuteronomy 28. Cursed shall be the offspring of your body and the produce of your ground, the increase of your herd and the young of your flock. Cursed shall you be when you come in, and cursed shall you be when you come out. Yahweh will send upon you the curse, confusion, and rebuke in all that you send forth your hand to do until you are destroyed, afflicted, persecuted, until you perish quickly on account of all evil of your deeds, because you have forsaken me And Yehovah will make the pestilence clean to you until he has consumed you from the land where you were entering to possess it. Yehovah will strike you with consumption, with fever, with inflammation, and with fiery heat, and with the sword, with the scorching wind and mildew, and they will pursue you until you perish. Sure is interesting that he's inverting the curses and the blessings, because then he goes on to talk about the curses later on in this chapter. That if you've heard it said, you shall not murder. Whoever murders shall be guilty before the court. But I say to you, this is a violation of Deuteronomy 18, 20 to 22, that he's speaking presumptuously in his own name. And this is why you have to make him Elohim, but that makes Elohim a liar, because he never told any of his prophets this. He never told Moses this. Everyone who is angry with his brother shall be guilty before the court. That's not Torah. Whoever says to his brother, Raka, that you're a fool or empty headed, shall be guilty before the Sanhedrin. Whoever says moron, or translated to English as fool, shall be guilty enough to go into the fiery hell. None of that is Torah. He's cursing you for saying and doing things that are not in Torah. And what's interesting is that he himself apparently didn't get the memo, because when he's insulting the Pharisees, he repeatedly says, "You fools and blind men." Does suddenly these elevated rules not apply to his own words? And the question is, as a Christian, why can't you see this contradiction? And I remember showing it to someone who abandoned Paul, and then they came after me for showing this truth. He also later on says, "Make no oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by earth, for it is footstool, by Jerusalem, for it is the great city of the king." Like, okay, so you don't make any oath? You've heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Again, Torah. But I say to you, do not resist an evil person. Remember Paul's statement on just love, love, love? Right. Exactly, Omar. It's like there's statements of fact in the New Testament that contradict prior statements of fact. Like John 15, this is my commandment, that you love one another. Oh, wait a minute, his commandment? Again, Deuteronomy 18, 20 to 22. He cannot add commandments to Torah. Greater love has no one than this, that one lay down his life for his friends. Back to 1 Corinthians 13. What does he say? If I surrender my body to be burned, same crap. It is not love to offer yourself like that. In fact, this was one of the sins Moses made in Exodus 32. After the golden calf incident, and after he destroyed the calf, had them drink the gold, Moses says to the camp in verse 30, now it happened the next day that Moses said to the people, you yourselves have committed a great sin, but now I am going up to Yahweh. Perhaps I can make atonement for your sin. Hold on. Sorry about that delay. He went up there to try to make atonement for himself for their sin. He was doing what Paul says and what you see JC saying. There's no greater love than to lay down your life for your friends. Then Moses returned to Jehovah and said, alas, this people has committed a great sin, and they have made themselves gods for themselves. But now, if you will forgive their sin, but if not, please blot me out from your book which you have written. He's trying to offer himself as a sacrificial atonement for their sin, that he lay down his life for his friends. But Jehovah said to Moses, whoever sinned against me, I will blot out of my book. But now go, guide the people where I told you to go. He's telling them, like, this is not what I told you to do. You're supposed to guide them. Behold, my angel shall go before you, never less than the day when I will punish them for their sin. And Jehovah smote the people because of what they did with the calf which Aaron made. And then another one of my favorites is Numbers 26, when maybe it's the prior, yeah, Israel gets caught up sacrificing the Baal in Numbers 25. Israel remained at Shittim, and the people began to play the harlot with the daughters of Moab. Indeed, they called the people to their sacrifices of their gods, and the people ate and bowed down to their gods. So Israel joined themselves to Baal of Peor, which means Lord of the Gap. And this is an interesting title as well. And the anger of Yahweh burned against Israel. Yahweh said to Moses, take all who are the heads of the people and execute them in broad daylight before Yahweh, so that the burning anger of Yahweh may be taken away and turned away from Israel. So Moses said to the judges of Israel, each of you kill his men who have joined themselves to Baal of Peor. And behold, one of the sons of Israel came and brought near his brother, a Midianite woman, in the sight of Moses and in the sight of all the congregation of the sons of Israel, while they were weeping at the doorway of the tent of meeting. And Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, saw it. So he arose from the midst of the congregation, took a spear in his hand, and he went after the man of Israel into the tent and pierced both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through the body. Then the plague of the sons of Israel was checked. That word is truly pierced, unlike what you see in Psalm 22. This is how he atoned for the sins of Israel, by killing the wicked man. And this is what you see in like a passage like Isaiah 27. You contend with them by driving them away, by making them forlorn. With this fierce wind, he has expelled them on the day of the east wind. Therefore, through this, Jacob's iniquity will be atoned for. Through what? Through killing the idolaters. But it's not all love. And, the love that Torah lays out is also not unconditional. It's conditioned on obedience. It's conditioned on zealousness, like Phineas. This Phineas is an example of righteousness. And even the psalmist understood this. Oh, I think it's 108. No, Psalm 106, verse 30. And then Phineas stood up and interceded. And so the plague was checked, and it was counted to him for righteousness. Like, why didn't Mr. Paul quote that as being counted for righteousness instead of from Genesis 15:6? Well, because it's clear why Phineas was counted righteous was because of his obedience, his zealousness. He was zealous for Yahweh. He stood up and interceded. He loved his brothers, but he knew what was right. It wasn't right to open his arms and be lovey-dovey. He had to take up the spear and spear the man. And you see the same thing with the misquotation of Leviticus 19 when they talk about loving your neighbor as yourself. You shall not hate your brother in your heart, right? You may surely reprove your neighbor and so not bear sin because of him. You notice they leave this verse out when they talk about loving your neighbor as yourself, which is verse 18. You shall not take vengeance, and you shall not keep your anger against the sons of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Yes, and what does that include, right? If you sit, if you sin, you get rebuked, reproved of your sin, so that you do not bear the sin of your neighbor. That's love. If you do not rebuke your neighbor of their sin, you do not love your neighbor. Okay, let me give you an example. I have a neighbor who's completely walked away from any foundation of the Bible. And I see this happening in the Torah community. Like so many of you are not founded in truth, you're founded in mystery. You're still seeking mystery, just like my neighbor. And his truth now is Ora Linda. He says it's the oldest religion known to man, even though, like all the other modern fake religions, it was invented in the 19th century by someone staring into a hat looking at divination stones. The Gospel of the Holy 12 by Reverend Osley, the Book of Mormon, Ellen White's books, all of them are the same. All these 19th century religions are the same. Love demands rebuke. If you don't rebuke your neighbor for doing things wrong, you don't love them. If you yourself receive affliction, then you're doing something wrong. You have to ask for revelation. And this is the appeal to mystery. When I was talking to one of these Christians, he's talked about, look, Isaiah 52, it says that he hides himself. No, was it 54? Uh, I'm way off, I think. Ah, see, look at if Isaiah 45:15. You are truly a God who hides himself, O God of Israel. This appeal to mystery, this is something you also have to let go. You have to let go of the idea that Yahweh is about mystery. He's not. Like, this goes back to Deuteronomy 29, verse 29. The secret things belong to Yahweh, our Elohim, but the things revealed belong to us. What's been revealed to us? Torah, the commandments, that we may do all the words of this Torah. So when he's talking about the secret things being hidden, right? He hides himself. What does that mean? Well, this is why it's important to read the context. Verse 16 here. They will be put to shame and even dishonored, all of them. The craftsman, the carpenter of idols will go away together in dishonor. Israel has been saved by Yahweh with an everlasting salvation. He will not be put to shame or dishonored for all eternity. For thus says Yahweh, who created the heavens, He is the God who formed the earth and made it. He established it and did not create a formless place, but formed it to be inhabited. I am Yahweh, and there is none else. I have not spoken in secret. You see how context destroys this idea of seeking mystery in some dark land? I did not say to the seed of Jacob, seek me in a formless place. I, Yahweh, speak righteousness and declaring things that are upright. Gather yourselves and come, draw near together. You who escaped from the nations, they do not know, who carry about their graven image of wood, and pray to a God who cannot save. Declare and draw near with your case. Indeed, let them consult together. Who has heard this from old? Who has long since declared it? It is not I, Yahweh, and there is no other Elohim beside me, a righteous Elohim and Savior. There is none except me. Turn to me and be saved, all of the ends of the earth, for I am Elohim and there is no other. I have sworn by myself, the word has gone forth from my mouth in righteousness and will not turn back, that to me every knee will bow, every tongue will swear allegiance. They will say of me, only in Yahweh are righteousness strength, and men will come to him, and all who were angry at him will be put to shame. In Yahweh, all the seed of Israel will be justified and will boast. He only hides himself to idolaters, to those that are seeking mystery. This is what he says in the curses, that, your eyes will begin to see things that don't exist. In Deuteronomy 28:34, you shall be driven mad by the sight of what your eyes see. If you want mystery, he will give it to you. He will hand you over to your delusion. If you want love, you'll get that. But you won't be following truth. Hallelujah for us seeking truth and not being comforted in love and lies.